The gun. No, I just today came to the realization that I don't care for Good Omens season 2.
So I have not watched it.
Okay.
The reason I haven't watched it is because I heard enough about it to feel like it wasn't something I was in the mood for right now. And if it ends on a cliffhanger, I don't really want to be cliffhangered.
Not only a cliffhanger, but almost identical to the cliffhanger from Our Flag Means Death.
Yeah, I don't need 2 of those.
Yeah, no, you don't.
No, I'm good.
Although in Defense of Good Omens, they didn't have Crowley cut a man's toe off and make him eat it, so that scene that haunts me is absent. But it is a very we admit we're in love, we kiss passionately, and we break up, and then the season ends, and I'm like, not okay with this.
I know he and Terry have had a thing they were talking about doing, but honestly, I think the original story was perfectly good, and I didn't truly feel the need for a sequel. So I might just Matrix it and be like, "Gosh, what a shame they never made any more."
Oh yeah. And the opposite of what I do with Pacific Rim. Like, God, wasn't it great that Mako got to be the clueless hero that saves the day in the trilogy? Except she doesn't, because her shadow had to step in at the last minute, because that's how he got his redemption. Okay, I'll watch it at SkyCon, because that's not how any of it went, but
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't remember it going that way at all.
It didn't, but it was set up like the first of a film trilogy, except the clueless hero was a girl, and I was like, yes. And then yeah.
No, they didn't.
They made a really good. She was a really acceptable Luke Skywalker. She was very much in that mold, and it's like, oh, yes, Valley of the Shadow, come back with stories. Come on, no. Huh.
What are you drinking?
This is water.
Oh, it's in a green cup.
It's in a green cup.
Okay.
We have 3 colored cups in the house, and I'm the only one who uses them. So I know throughout a day what cup is mine. In a family as large as ours, if there's like a half drunk glass of water on the counter, you can't trust that it's yours, but I can. Because this.
That makes sense. I thought it was trying to figure out what kind of a drink was that color. I was like really coming up blank.
Sort of a chlorophyll.
More of a Clorox on my screen. Very bluish green, like.
Yeah, it's teal. It's a teal cup.
I have these glasses and I like them because they're like
They're
nubbly.
nubbly. They're so nubbly. All of our glasses have the circles in them, even the clear ones, because they remind us of the old school TARDIS. That was what had us buying those.
Vaguely related, I had a salad today with gooseberries in it, and I've never had gooseberries before. Did you know they're delicious?
I didn't know they were delicious. I knew they were green.
They're actually bright yellow. At least these ones are.
All right.
But yeah, apparently
I'll
they
try
are.
them someday.
You can get them at Trader Joe's. The lady at the restaurant said that was the only place she had ever found them. But they're a native U.S. or like native to this continent fruit that we never eat, and I think that's a shame.
Yeah, that's stupid. My next big like learning project is going to be botany, because I don't like being plant blind. I walk past a lovely field and I can see that there's 9 kinds of grasses in it, but that's all I know about any of them. And I'm like, occasionally I'll spot some clover or alfalfa, and I'm like, ah.
Ah, I mean,
Yesterday I learned that plantain, the
mhm.
great little ground cover herb, used to be called white man's footsteps because it was brought over from Europe, and I'm like, oh,
Hmm,
that makes me sad.
yeah,
Footprints, sorry, white man's footprints,
that's kind of sad.
right? Because I
Good luck
like
with
the plant,
identifying grasses because I know people who are into botany and apparently grasses are like absolutely wild and very difficult to differentiate. So,
right? If I can get like at least the family.
um, I follow a an Instagram about lichen. So, if you're into botany, that's a fun one. Lichen is
Oh,
really cool.
like it. It's so cool. I'll start with the green plants, the photosynthesizey things, and then I will draw them as dragons because that's how I remember things.
Checks out.
Right?
Um, Last but not least, while we're talking about the natural world, have I told you about the cicadas?
No.
My neighborhood is freaking full of cicadas. They are so loud.
I'm
And
sorry.
like what which is it's not so much I mean it has gotten annoying over the last few weeks. I'm like, "Oh my God. Just pair up already, God." But
No, I
I
feel
thought they
like
were
clinging to a tree and screaming. I can totally relate.
I thought they were just really surprisingly loud grasshoppers because we've never had cicadas in Denver. And then I found a dead one and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" It's huge.
Huge. They're really big.
God.
Yeah, what I wonder why they're I wonder if they were just buried for 17 years because of the drought or something.
I have no idea and like I asked my friend about it who has lived in this neighborhood for a while. I was like, "What's the deal with the cicadas?" And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "You know, the things that are really make really loud buzzing noises at night?" And she was like, "Oh, I've never noticed." Couldn't be me.
Well,
That shit is loud. I have to close the windows sometimes.
I
So,
hear you.
I don't know.
Such
I
a
don't know
it
what
is
that's
a very
about, but
white noise, but it's I mean, I can hear the computer screaming at night.
mhm.
At, I'm like, shut up.
Yeah, I've been known to have to turn my work computer or some of my other electronics or God, my old modem was so loud. So,
The other
yeah.
the other side of that is the last power outage we had, the house felt dead. Like like the electronics are the house breathing, and it had just stopped breathing, and I was like, this silence is uncanny and I don't like it. Gross.
Gross. Okay, let me get my knitting. Uh, Come here.
Me too.
This is what we're working on today.
Oh my god, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
I love
I'm
it.
very pleased with it.
Oh, pretty pattern, lovely colors.
Thanks. I'm really happy with it. I actually had bought I just bought the like black and the yellow,
Mm.
and I had these two colors kind of in my yarn stash, and I was like, wait a minute. So yeah, it's all kinds of sunsetty, and this is a pattern from a Navajo knitwear designer. So it's kind
Nice.
of based on like the pottery and that kind of stuff.
I was gonna say it feels very First Nations in its patterning and
Yeah.
very fall like. It feels very
It is definitely I think that has a lot to do with the colors, the very fall sort of
yeah, warm
vibe,
and then
but
black.
yes.
Oh, where the hell were we?
Mm,
Rescue Lothal Pimple? Oh, you won't rescue Lotho or the Shire just by being shocked and sad?
I think, yeah, we were right about there.
Okay, we might overlap then, because that is easy to find. By the way, I'm reading aloud to Avi because I'm reading Lord of the Rings aloud to Avi again because he requested it, and it's really hard to not stop every few paragraphs and be like, so. Like, I don't want to drag him out of the story. But also, oh god, the amount of sass being thrown around in the Council of Elrond is just like,
God. And it's not even the sassiest part of the book.
no.
You're not even to the bit where Aragorn and God, my brain.
Boromir?
No. Horsemaster.
Oh, yeah, Aemir.
Yeah, thank you. You're not even to the part where Aragorn and Aemir measure dicks.
Not even a little bit. No, right now it's actually Boromir and Aragorn, because Boromir's like, y'all would have the suckiest life without me. And Aragorn's like, y'all would have the suckiest life without me, and I don't even get any thanks for it. And Boromir's like,
Boromir's like, who are you again?
who are you again? Fuck are you? And Legolas, no, it's not even Legolas at that point. It's one of the others. It's just like, oh, Bilbo jumps up and recites poetry.
The sass.
That's right. That's right, my brother. You won't rescue Lotho or the Shire just by being shocked and sad, my dear Frodo. No, said Pippin. It won't be so easy scaring them a second time. They were taken by surprise. You heard that horn blowing. Evidently there are other ruffians near at hand. They'll be much bolder when there's more of them together. We ought to think of taking cover somewhere for the night. After all, we're only 4, even if we are armed. I've an idea, said Sam. Let's go to old Tom Cotton's down South Lane. He always was a stout fellow, and he has a load of lads that were all friends of mine. No, said Mary. It's no good getting under cover. That is just what people have been doing, and just what these ruffians like. They will simply come down on us in force, corner us, and then drive us out or burn us in. No, we've got to do something at once. Do what? Said Pippin. Raise the Shire, said Mary. Now, wake all our people. They hate all this, you can see. All of them except perhaps 1 or 2 rascals, and a few fools that want to be important but don't at all understand what is really going on. But Shire folk have been so comfortable so long they don't know what to do. They just want a match, though, and they'll go up in fire. The chief's men must know that. They'll try to stamp on us and put us out quick. We've only got a very short time. Sam, you can make a dash for Cotton's farm if you like. He's the chief person round here and the sturdiest. Come on, I am going to blow the horn of Rohan and give them all some music they have never heard before. They rode back to the middle of the village. There Sam turned aside and galloped off down the lane that led south to Cotton's. He had not gone far when he heard a sudden clear horn call go up ringing into the sky. Far over hill and field it echoed, and so compelling was that call that Sam himself almost turned and dashed back. His pony reared and neighed. On, lad, on, he cried. We'll be going back soon. Then he heard Mary change the note, and up went the horn cry of Buckland, shaking the air. Awake! Awake! Fear fire foes! Awake! Fire foes! Awake! Behind him Sam heard a hubbub of voices and a great din and slamming of doors. In front of him lights sprang out in the gloaming. Dogs barked, feet came running. Before he got to the lane's end, there was Farmer Cotton with 3 of his lads, young Tom, Jolly, and Nick. Hurrying towards him, Jolly Cotton. I feel like that's a name in a song.
It's a pretty great name.
Jolly Cotton. They had axes in their hands and barred the way. Nay, it's not one of them ruffians, Sam heard the farmer say. It's a hobbit, by the size of it, but all dressed up queer. Hey, he cried. Who are you? What's all this to do? It's Sam Gamgee. I've come back. Farmer Cotton came up close and stared at him in the twilight. Well, he exclaimed, the voice is right. Your face is no worse than it was, Sam. But I should have passed you in the street in that gear. Only known you since you were born, but you're wearing weird clothes.
I just like your face is no worse than it was. Like, hey, thanks. That's such an old man compliment.
Like, I'll take that in the spirit that it's given, I guess. You've been in foreign parts, seemingly. We feared you was dead. That I ain't, said Sam, nor Mr. Frodo. He's here and his friends, and that's the to-do. They're raising the Shire. We're going to clear out these ruffians and their chief, too. We're starting now. Good, good, cried Farmer Cotton. So it's begun at last. I've been itching for trouble all this year, but folks wouldn't help, and I've had the wife and Rosie to think of. These ruffians don't stick at nothing. Pardon me for reading more into that sentence than was probably intended, but that sounds like he's afraid that they would get, like, violated or something. And I'm like,
that is what it sounds like, yeah.
Right? Like, no one in Middle-earth fucks. This is not okay. Not for pleasure or assault. This is not an okay sentence.
Children are conceived by thinking really hard while seated on a hill under the stars.
Yeah. The hobbits are born because Entwives grow them in a garden somewhere. And elves are it just... Anyway, I'm glad I'm not the only one who was, like, extra dark with that sentence, but I bet Tolkien wasn't. Anyway, but come on now, lads. Bywater is up. We must be in it. What about Mrs. Cotton and Rosie? Said Sam. It isn't safe yet for them to be left all alone. My Nibs is with them, but you can go and help him if you have a mind, said Farmer Cotton with a grin. Then he and his sons ran off towards the village. Sam hurried to the house. By the large round door at the top of the steps from the wide yard stood Mrs. Cotton and Rosie, and Nibs in front of them, grasping a hay fork. Nibs is like 4. It's me, shouted Sam as he trotted up. Sam Gamgee. So don't try prodding me, Nibs. Anyway, I've got a mail shirt on me. He jumped down from his pony and went up the steps. They stared at him in silence. Good evening, Mrs. Cotton, he said. Hello, Rosie. Hello, Sam, said Rosie. Where have you been? They said you was dead, but I've been expecting you since the spring. You haven't hurried, have you? Perhaps not, said Sam, abashed. But I'm hurrying now. We're setting about the ruffians, and I've got to get back to Mr. Frodo. But I thought I'd have a look and see how Mrs. Cotton was keeping. And you, Rosie. We're keeping nicely, thank you, said Mrs. Cotton. Or should be if it weren't for these thieving ruffians. Well, be off with you, said Rosie. If you've been looking after Mr. Frodo all this while, what do you want to leave him for as soon as things look dangerous? This was too much for Sam. It needed a week's answer or none. He turned away and mounted his pony. But as he started off, Rosie ran down the steps. I think you look fine, Sam, she said. Go on now, but take care of yourself and come straight back as soon as you have settled the ruffians. When Sam got back, he found the whole village roused. Already, apart from many younger lads, more than 100 sturdy hobbits were assembled with axes and heavy hammers and long knives and stout staves, and a few had hunting bows. More were still coming in from outlying farms. Some of the village folk had lit a large fire just to enliven things, and also because it was one of the things forbidden by the chief. It burned bright as night came on. Others, at Mary's orders, were setting up barriers across the road at each end of the village. When the sheriffs came up to the lower one, they were dumbfounded. But as soon as they saw how things were, most of them took off their feathers and joined in the revolt. The others slunk away. Sam found Frodo and his friends by the fire, talking to old Tom Cotton, while an admiring crowd of Bywater folk stood round and stared. "Well, what's the next move?" said Farmer Cotton. "I can't say," said Frodo, "until I know more. How many of these ruffians are there?" "That's hard to tell," said Cotton. "They moves about and comes and goes. There's sometimes 50 of them in their sheds up Hobbiton way, but they go out from their roving round, thieving, or gathering, as they call it. Still, there's seldom less than a score round the boss, as they names him. He's at Bag End, or was, but he don't go outside the grounds now. No one's seen him at all, in fact, for a week or two, but the men don't let no one go near." "Hobbiton's not their only place, is it?" said Pippin. "No, more's the pity," said Cotton. "There's a good few down south in Longbottom and by Sarn Ford, I hear. Some more lurking in the woody end, and they've sheds at Waymeet. Then there's the lock holes, as they call 'em, the old storage tunnels at Mishel Delving that they've made into prisons for those as stand up to them. Still, I reckon there's not above 300 of them in the Shire, all told, and maybe less. We can master them if we stick together." "Have they got any weapons?" asked Mary. "Whips, knives, and clubs, enough for their dirty work. That's all they've shown so far," said Cotton. "But I dare say they've got other gear if it comes to fighting. Some have bows, anyway. They've shot one or two of our folk." "There you are, Frodo," said Mary. "I knew we should have to fight. Well, they started the killing." "Not exactly," said Cotton. "Leastways, not the shooting. Tooks started that. You see, your dad, Mr. Peregrine, he's never had no truck with this Lotho, not from the beginning. Said that if anyone was going to play the chief at this time of day, it would be the right Thane of the Shire and no upstart. And when Lotho sent his men, they got no change out of him. Tooks are lucky. They've got those deep holes in the green hills, the great smiles and all, and the ruffians can't come at 'em, and they won't let the ruffians come on their land. If they do, Tooks hunt 'em. Tooks shot 3 for prowling and robbing. After that, the ruffians turned nastier. And they keep a pretty close watch on Tookland. No one gets in nor out of it now." "Good for the Tooks!" cried Pippin. But yeah! "But someone is going to get in again now. I am off to the Smiles. Anyone coming with me to Tuckborough?" Pippin rode off with half a dozen lads on ponies. "See you soon," he cried. "It's only 14 miles or so over the fields. I'll bring you back an army of Tooks in the morning." Mary blew a horn call after them as they rode off into the gathering night. The people cheered. "All the same," said Frodo to all those who stood near, "I wish for no killing, not even of the ruffians, unless it must be done to prevent them from hurting hobbits." "All right," said Mary, "but we shall be having a visit from the Hobbiton gang any time now, I think. They won't come just to talk things over. We'll try to deal with them neatly, but we must be prepared for the worst. Now, I've got a plan." "Very good," said Frodo. "You make the arrangements." Just then, some hobbits who had been sent off toward Hobbiton came running in. "They're coming," they said. "A score or more, but 2 have gone off west across country." "To Waymeet, that'll be," said Cotton, "to fetch more of the gang. Well, it's 15 miles each way. We needn't trouble about them just yet." Mary hurried off to give orders. Farmer Cotton cleared the street, sending everyone indoors except the older hobbits who had weapons of some sort. They had not long to wait. Soon they could hear loud voices, and then the tramping of heavy feet. Presently a whole squad of the ruffians came down the road. They saw the barrier and laughed. They did not imagine that there was anything in this little land that would stand up to 20 of their kind together. The hobbits opened the barrier and stood aside. "Thank you," the men jeered. "Now run home to bed before you're whipped." Then they marched along the street, shouting, "Put those lights out! Get indoors and stay there, or we'll take 50 of you to the lock holes for a year. Get in! The boss is losing his temper." No one paid any heed to their orders. But as the ruffians passed, they closed in quietly behind and followed them. That's kind of spooky, I won't lie.
That is great psychological warfare.
Right.
Like, oh no, we're not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with us.
You know who else is small? Piranhas.
Actually, they're huge.
Well, compared to a whole person, though.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
I always thought they were like this big, but no, they're giant fish. Anyway.
They're like yo, I think. I had a friend who had a tank of them. So they're like this big, which would be very unintimidating if you didn't know
if
they
it
had
wasn't
teeth.
for the teeps.
And the fact that there's always so many of them gathering in the dark behind you. Silently following. No one paid any blah. When the men reached the fire, there was Farmer Cotton, standing all alone, warming his hands. "Who are you, and what do you think you're doing?" said the ruffian leader. Farmer Cotton looked at him slowly. "I was just going to ask you that," he said. "This isn't your country. You're not wanted." "Well, you're wanted anyhow," said the leader. "We want you. Take him, lads. Lock holes for him and give him something to keep him quiet." The men took one step forward and stopped short. There rose a roar of voices all round them, and suddenly they were aware that Farmer Cotton was not all alone. They were surrounded. In the dark, on the edge of the firelight, stood a ring of hobbits that had crept up out of the shadows. There was nearly 200 of them, all holding some weapon. Merry stepped forward. "We have met before," he said to the leader, "and I warned you not to come back here. I warn you again. You are standing in the light and you are covered by archers. If you lay a finger on this farmer or on anyone else, you will be shot at once. Lay down any weapons that you have." The leader looked round. He was trapped. But he was not scared, not now, with a score of his fellows to back him. He knew too little of hobbits to understand his peril. Foolishly, he decided to fight. It would be easy to break out. "At 'em, lads!" he cried. "Let 'em have it!" With a long knife in his left hand and a club in the other, he made a rush at the ring, trying to burst out back towards Hobbiton. He aimed a savage blow at Merry, who stood in his way. He fell dead with 4 arrows in him. That was enough for the others. They gave in. Their weapons were taken from them, and they were roped together and marched off to an empty hut that they had built themselves, and there they were tied hand and foot and locked up under guard. The dead leader was dragged off and buried. "Seems almost too easy after all, don't it?" said Cotton. "I said we could master 'em, but we needed a call. You came back in the nick of time, Mr. Merry." "There's more to be done still," said Merry. "If you are right in your reckoning, we haven't dealt with a tithe of them yet. But it's dark now. I think the next stroke must wait until the morning. Then we must call on the chief." "Why not now?" said Sam. "It's not much more than 6 o'clock, and I want to see my gaffer. Do you know what's come of him, Mr. Cotton?" "He's not too well, and not too bad, Sam," said the farmer. "They dug up Bagshot Row, and that was a sad blow to him. He's in one of them new houses that the chief's men used to build while they still did any work other than burning and thieving. Not above a mile from the end of Bywater. But he comes around to me when he gets a chance, and I see he's better fed than some of the poor bodies. All against the rules, of course. I'd have had him with me, but that wasn't allowed." "Thank ye indeed, Mr. Cotton, and I'll never forget it," said Sam. "But I want to see him. That boss and that Sharkey, as they spoke of, they might do a mischief up there before the morning." "All right, Sam," said Cotton. "Choose a lad or two and go and fetch him to my house. You'll not have need to go near the old Hobbiton village over water. My jolly here will show you." And that's a page break, so we're going to stop. And anyway, it's 8 o'clock.
It is.
We helped Mom. Well, we helped. I went with to keep Jason company while he helped Mom set up a couple of security cameras so she could keep an eye on the dogs while she's at work. It was lovely.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah.
All right. I'ma go.
Okay.
I'll
Me
talk to you next week.
Right? There was something else. I can't remember. I'll just message you. I love you.
I love you too.
Cuidado.
Llamas.